Hi there, world changers. Welcome to the first day of my series called 21 Days of Gamification. I am so excited to launch this video because I've put together these 21 articles that explain the details and the power and the philosophy behind the style of gamification that I teach. And what I'm really interested in is the power of putting measurement and data into the center of the gamification and the behavior change process. It all revolves around this central problem of not studying the data about what you want to change in the world. And you've probably heard that saying, if you can't measure it, then it probably doesn't exist. You probably think that measurement doesn't have anything to do with creativity at all. You probably think that measurement might even stifle the creative process. But if we're in the game to actually make some real impact on the world, we need to self-reflect and ask if our efforts are actually changing anything at all. And we need to confront the fact that despite our best intentions, we may actually not be having any real or measurable impact on the things that we want to change in the world at all. It might be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow to really consider that. But even if it's uncomfortable or confronting to confront this issue, if you've done all this work and you really have to ask if you've made any measurable impact at all, this particular process is the darkness before the dawn of being able to use measurement to unleash this epic creativity and innovation so you can really actually create change. And don't forget that creativity is actually a technical skill. We tend to think it might be this like woo-woo thing, like painting and music, and it just comes from nowhere. But if you think of all of the creative crafts, such as photography, gold and silver smithing, boot making, fashion making, software design, architecture, all of these professions are technical crafts that require years and years of training to technically master. The same thing goes for musicians. You think someone wakes up and can just play the piano or play the harp? All creative skills take years and years of technical training. So it's really a misnomer to think that anything creative or the arts is this kind of like woo creative thing. It's actually just as technical and scientific as any of the sciences or engineering or mechanical trades. And there is incredible joy that you can garner from making the world a better place and coming up with incredible ideas that you can use to change the world. But in order to keep you really motivated and excited in this process, you need to be getting the feedback of the measurable change that you're making in the world. So you do something and you're like, wow, that reduced that problem by 10%. I actually helped that one particular person lose 10 pounds. Or I've actually saved that particular tree or saved that megaliter of water. When you start getting that data back in a feedback loop, that will feed your creativity in this cycle of, or what I call the virtuous upward cycle of creativity, to keep you really motivated and so you have more and more ideas. And you don't get stuck in this loop of just coming up with one sort of average idea and then getting trapped in it. You'll be able to constantly use this as motivation to get more and more ideas. What I've also added in this article is this concept of getting ideas as either copycat ideas or gathering your creativity from primary sources. And what I mean by this is that it's really easy to just grab ideas that you've seen around the world, such as looking at apps you've already seen, books you've seen, conferences, campaigns, and then just kind of appropriate that idea for what you do. I did this for the first 10 years of my career. I thought it would be a great idea to just do green versions of everything else that existed. So I did a green version of the yellow pages, called it Green Pages. And I see this type of innovation happening all the time, where people will just say, oh, let's just write a book and we'll do a book for my thing, or we'll make an app that does that. And this isn't really the heart of creativity and innovation. You're not really going to get to the core of what you want to change in the world by just appropriating other people's ideas. So with what you work on or your next ideas, reflect as to where you got the idea from. And if you were just kind of mimicking something else and just changing it slightly. Not that that's not an invaluable style of innovation, but there is another way that is much better. The other way is developing your creativity from primary principles. Primary principles meaning the basic laws of physics and the universe. So if we think about the universe is made up of a whole lot of atoms and energy and cells and organisms, we can use data to basically understand what is going on in the world. And in that way, data is the language of the universe. So the more we understand our cause in absolute numbers, the more insight we'll have into actually what is going on in the real primary principles, in the actual atoms of what we're trying to change. And then when you really understand this data, as you start looking through the tables and doing graphs and doing charts and really trying to understand what it means, and then you start thinking, well, what ideas can I have to try and make this cause better? That's when you'll start having really killer ideas. I think the best ideas you've ever had. When I started doing this, that's when I started having really incredible ideas and my own creativity really flowered. And I would absolutely love for you to go through the same experience, which is why I've written this article and why I'm making this video. So when you go through this process of really digging into the data about your cause to bring out creativity, something magical happens to the imagination. It really does. And so what you do is essentially harvest ideas from the data. The more you look into it, and then you think, can I write 10 ideas? Can I write 50 ideas? Can I write 100 ideas for how I would get this slice of the pie chart to go down, or how I would make this go up and this go down? You'll start to really come up with some really cool stuff. And what this all brings us to is that when we have all this data available to us, that's what we need to use as our motivation, as our agency in game design or gamification. All games require some sort of feedback loop of getting the data back to the player so they know how they're scoring, so they know how they're doing, and then that motivates them to keep going. So when we can get data about our cause back to us, and as well as back to our audience, back to our player, that's when we can implement these really powerful gamification techniques which leverage human motivation, which really enhance, spice up, augment human motivation to do things that they might not be that motivated to do before. People might not be that motivated to compost. They might not be that motivated to ride their bike. And you can apply these principles to really dig into people's intrinsic motivation and then bring it out of them using these gamification techniques. But they all rely on measurement and data. It's the absolute cornerstone of developing a powerful strategy. I've had my own absolute creative renaissance with this process and have come up with incredible projects, new ideas, new clients, and new social connections since I've been using this in my own work. And I think it even has more than that. I think we all have a higher purpose. We're all craving meaning. We want to work on important things in the world. And I think all of our higher purposes and all of our callings, in plural, has to do with making the world a better place in some way. And how good we are at making the world a better place is measurable. So it's not that hard to argue that our higher purpose is even measurable. And when you get into your creative self, into your state of creative flow, that's when you'll be able to have a really powerful impact on the world. You'll have more meaning, you'll have more measurement, and it will keep flowing round and round and round. And I honestly, truly believe that creativity is the only limiting factor we have in making the world a better place. I think every problem is ultimately solvable when we put our creativity, our innovation to work. Okay, well that is a snapshot of the article that I've written, Why You Should Put Measurement at the Center of Your Creative Process. Check out the full article on my website, katiepatrick.com/articles. I've also narrated a podcast of this article that you can find on the iTunes store if you look up How to Save the World. And I've written these articles to launch my first ever video course called Save the World with Gamification. How to use game design techniques for your environmental or social win. I absolutely loved learning these techniques, so I was so moved to put them together in an online video course. The course has 15 different gamification techniques. It also has example designs, academic evidence, case studies, and homework. And I've also created a Facebook group where you'll be able to post your designs, your homework, your ideas. You'll be able to communicate with other students, and you'll be able to communicate with me directly. So do check out the course. The link is in the description below. It's called Save the World with Gamification. I hope you like this article, and I will see you tomorrow for day number 2.